So I've been divorced going on 2 years now. And in that time, I've thought a lot about relationships, how they fall apart, how I think they ought to work. I even wrote a couple of pieces last year, Is Marriage Dead? Parts 1 and 2. And I still stand by them. But rereading them recently, I noticed that they skip right past a rather important question. They talk about how a marriage might work once you're in it, and they say nothing about how on earth we get into these relationships in the first place. Which is strange when you think about it, because that's the part nobody teaches us. We get coached on everything else. We hire trainers for our jump shot. We read books on how to grow a business. We take lessons for golf or guitar or gluten-free sourdough. We'll pay a stranger good money to help our kid raise a math grade. But the relationship we say matters more than any of it, the person we intend to build a whole life with, that one we just sort of wing it. We show up to the most consequential decision of our lives armed with nothing but whatever our family of origin happened to model, for better or for worse. And then two people from two completely different families collide, and it goes sideways, and we stand there baffled, wondering what happened. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the front end, the selecting process. Here's the distinction that reframed the whole thing for me. A relationship is about mutual acceptance and adaptation, but selecting one is about filtering and alignment. Those are two very different postures, and confusing them is where a lot of people go wrong. Once you're in a committed partnership, acceptance is the whole game. You take your person as they are, quirks and all, and you build. But before that, before you commit, that is not the time for acceptance. That's the time to be selective, genuinely, unapologetically selective. Mate selection is an inherently discriminatory filtering process. And I mean discriminatory in the old clean sense of the word, the ability to discern, to tell the difference, to choose and decide. There are millions of people out there, and your job is to narrow the field to exactly one. That is an act of ruthless selection, and there's no way around it. To be selective, you have to be able to articulate what you actually need and want. And if you can't put it into words, then you're at the mercy of the first charmer who smiles at you. Now let me offer the counterpart before you do, because I can hear it coming. You think you know what you want? How? How do you know that what you're drawn to is actually good for your future self and not just something shiny you're lusting after right now? People will surprise you. They'll turn out to possess qualities you never thought to put on your list, qualities you didn't know you needed. So let the vision you build be a firm guideline, but hold it with an open hand and do not cling. So with that caveat in place, here's the framework. There's 3 steps. So step 1 is get clear on the life you want. Before you can evaluate a partner, you have to know where you're headed. What kind of life are you actually trying to build? What does a good day look like 10 years out? What do you want your ordinary Tuesday to feel like? Be as clear as you can, knowing that it'll evolve. I mean, of course it will. You're going to grow, you'll change, and your vision will mature. In my Deep Dive online course, I talk about how our vision is not a picture, it is a portal. And as you move forward through the frame, it expands as you discover things you never thought to consider. But you need some sense of direction before you can go anywhere, because nobody drifts to their desired destination. We only get where we want to go by pointing ourselves at it on purpose. So step 1 is a vision for the life you want, and eventually the life you want to share. So step 2, get clear on the partner who fits that life. Now, describe the person. And here's where most people go shopping for the wrong things. I mean, sure, put down what you find physically attractive. I mean, that's fair. Attraction matters. But it can't be the headline. What you're really after is the quality of their character. How do they behave under pressure? How do they act when things go wrong? Watch how someone treats a slow waiter, or how they handle traffic, or what comes out of their mouth when the internet crawls and the video won't load. There's a litmus test hiding in all those small frustrations. How emotionally available are they? How about emotional responsibility? Do they keep an even keel in stormy waters, or does every squall become a hurricane? Are they curious and receptive, or closed and committed to being right? Write it all down as articulately as you can. Not because the list is sacred, but because the act of writing it down does something to your brain. Here's the mechanism. When you clarify what you're looking for, you activate what's called the reticular activating system, or the RAS for short. It's the part of your brain that filters the fire hose of reality and decides what's worth noticing. You've experienced this. You buy a Honda and suddenly there are Hondas at every intersection. They were always there, but your brain just started flagging them because suddenly Hondas are top of mind. Clarify the partner you're looking for, and the same thing happens. You start noticing paths and people and possibilities that were invisible to you the day before, simply because you'd never told your own mind what to look for. Which brings us to the obvious middle step. So this is like step 2.5. You actually have to meet someone. Frameworks are cheap until a real human is sitting across the table from you. So go, get out there, shoot your shot, meet people, go on the coffee date, the walk, the dinner. Start getting to know the actual person in real time with all of the awkwardness that entails. Just embrace it. Then as you do, you move on to the step that matters most. Step 3, examine their past patterns, not their potential. This is the one I want to tattoo on people. When you evaluate someone, do not evaluate their potential. Do not evaluate the person they say they're going to become or the person you can see they could be if only. Evaluate who they have actually been and the results their life is producing right now, today. Then measure that against your list from step 2. How much do the two circles overlap? Is it a lot? Are the gaps things you could genuinely live with, like forever unchanged? And then ask yourself the hardest version of this question. If this person never grew another inch beyond who they are today, would I be content? Because you can't marry potential. And let me say that again, because it's the whole ballgame here. You cannot marry potential. You have to marry the person in front of you exactly as they are. So if in your head you start hearing, he'd be perfect if he made more money, or she'd be great if she weren't such a slob, that kind of thinking is a recipe for resentment and heartbreak. Nobody wants to be somebody else's renovation project, and nobody should sign up to be somebody else's contractor. Then run step 3 back against step 1. Given who this person has actually been, living the life they've actually lived, how confident are you that they'll help carry you toward the future you envisioned? Will they be a partner in it or a headwind? Are you going to spend your best years shoring up their weaknesses instead of building the thing you both said you wanted? A good partnership is two people standing side by side facing a future they are pursuing together, not two people locked in a tug of war, drifting with no shared vision or direction at all. Now, none of this means it'll be frictionless. Every relationship has hurdles and conflict and ruptures that need repair. Those are just the cost of admission, but they're skills you can build. But if you pair yourself with someone who has no capacity or interest in going where you want to go, you're not compromising. You're quietly sacrificing your own life on the altar of someone else's quirks. One more thing before I hand you the second half of this. There's a trap baked into the very beginning of all this, and it sabotages the whole filtering process. And that trap is performance. When we badly want to make a good impression, we stop showing up as ourselves and start showing up as a highlight reel. Women will primp and men will peacock. Everybody puts on the show. And the tragedy is that the performance defeats the entire purpose. Because you can't run an honest filter on a person who's performing, and neither can they. You end up two carefully curated avatars evaluating each other's marketing campaign. The real people don't meet until much later, sometimes years later, sometimes not until after the papers are signed. So the filter has a prerequisite. You both have to be real, which sounds simple and turns out to be one of the hardest things two hopeful people can do. And there's a reason for that. And it has to do with what happens when you finally hold the filter up and realizing you're looking into a mirror. And that's where we're going to pick it up in part 2.